Now, how can you stop an entrepreneur? It is very easy. uh, First, of course, the entrepreneur or this person with the creative idea can stop him or herself very easily. For example, I have here an example of a former colleague of mine who failed with his project because he did an approach that was not very good. Yeah, so he had a slide deck that he kept sending around for 3 years that he's slightly improved over the time, but it basically stayed the same. I've seen multiple versions of that. So half of the slides were talking about himself. Yeah, like what academic titles he has, what papers he has published, what industry awards he has gotten. He interviewed customers on conferences, basically what they think about his ideas, and of course they were all raving and great about that. He listed news articles about the topic. He estimated $1 million budget and resources and 10 people that he needs. He pitched that slide deck for 3 years, and he pitched it only to executives, but he never built any prototype. He just was waiting to get the money. He never brought it to the next stage. And that's not the way it is. You don't need $1 million to start something. You can do that much cheaper. Yeah. Also, the other way around, of course, is if you punish an entrepreneur, an innovation manager, an innovation person, because the absence of something that should have been done is always more difficult to detect than the presence of something that should not have been done. So if somebody tries stuff, you're putting yourself basically in the spotlight. And if you fail, you will be punished. If you're not doing anything, yeah, you're holding back, nobody's detecting that you did not do that. Also, how can you destroy creativity? And this is something coming from John Cleese. Yeah? And he said, forbid humor. Humor is subversive. Your dignity is no laughing matter. And cut everybody else down to size. Use your authority to zero in on everything that you find wrong. Never look at the rights. Demand people actively doing things. Yeah, accuse people pondering thoughts of laziness. We remember boredom. Yeah, pondering, daydreaming. That's actually an important element of creativity and innovation. This buzziness, this busyness of doing, pretending that you're busy, is actually the total opposite. Demand urgency at all times. Establish a permanent atmosphere of stress, breathless, anxiety, and crisis. Yeah. If you are in such an environment, yeah, you know something is going wrong. There must be change. Also, processes gone wild. First, processes are actually installed to work for you, not you for the process. Yeah. So if you are steered to focus on checking boxes on a form instead of delivering big ideas, you are having problems. Yeah. If process outputs are treated as decisions rather than data, you also have a problem. If you're forced to utilize a process, even if it doesn't make sense or doesn't add value, then you have a problem. I realized that myself. We had a process for large software development projects with hundreds of people on that, 600 steps to follow, 500 steps to follow through that. And then we suddenly had little, small, agile projects with 2 people on that did it within a month. And these 500 steps of this process took alone 6 months. It required 2 full-time employees to take care of that. That's not working here anymore. So we needed to change that. Processes drive rigidity rather than agility. So you have to constantly question processes. Stage gate innovation is another one. Yeah, most such processes include something like: is this stuff feasible? Let's develop that and then launch that. Yeah, and the key decision criteria you have at each gate are the size of projected revenues and profits from the product and the associated risks. But we are not looking at the revenues properly here. Yeah? Revenues from products that incrementally improve upon those the company is currently selling can be credibly quantified, but proposals to create growth by exploiting disruptive technologies, new products, new business models, we cannot have these numbers. We don't have these hard numbers there. Their markets also may be initially very small, yeah, and substantial revenues may only materialize several years later. So So when you pit those innovation projects against those existing projects, the sustaining innovations, then we're in a disadvantage all the time. That's why I said look at those innovation metrics and look at those innovation options. Otherwise, you kill innovation right there. Discovery-driven planning. So instead of executive-driven planning, you're looking at it reverses the sequence of some steps in the stage gate process. Yeah. So when it's okay to have minimal acceptable revenue, income, cash flow, that's good. Yeah. Set assumptions that must prove true for these numbers to materialize. Yeah. So let's wait for them. Have an assumptions checklist that is ordered by rank with deal killers and the assumptions that can be tested with little expenses towards the top. It's basically what we have here, a reverse income statement. This is a plan to learn, not to execute. In traditional state gate planning obfuscates those assumptions and shines the light mostly on financial projections, and that's again where you are not doing it properly. Asking the right questions. Often, failure in innovation is rooted in not having asked an important question rather than in having arrived at an incorrect answer. So compare it to the right things. When we compare ourselves to our current competitors, we look pretty good. Yeah, we're innovative and ahead of the game. But what's wrong with that comparison? So we're not worried about the people already in the market. We are worried about the people we've never heard of. Remember, the taxi companies are disrupted not by other taxi companies. They're disrupted by Uber, Airbnb, hospitality industry, the car makers. They are disrupted by people who are coming from outside the market, like Tesla, like Google, like Apple, like Uber suddenly, and they're changing that stuff. Also, when we look at borders and rules, so for example, incremental innovation plays within the borders and rules. A taxi hailing app plays within the rules, the established environment, the established relationships, while disruptive innovation changes the borders and rules and questions them, such as Uber. Uber questions the very notion of the taxi regulations. And we cannot say they must not do that. They also have to follow the laws. No, you have to question the laws that were implemented. Why are they here in the first place? And why is it valid to reconsider them now having new technology? So here a list that you can go through in order to see of how innovation initiatives may be set up to fail. Yeah, from risk adversity of management to the framing problem to legal that runs the show to not invented here syndrome to no recognition for inventors and entrepreneurs and innovators, for dismissing startup mentality, for being dishonest and having a closed discussion culture, internal secrecy where no information is shared, no ideas are discussed, where management is not incentivized to foster innovation, where corporate policies forbids the use of new technologies and services, like, for example, you're not allowed to bring your own device. Yeah, you're not allowed to use mobile devices. You're missing support and resources for innovators. You have a framing problem where I call them idea gatekeepers instead of idea scouts. You have missing infrastructures for innovators to share and discuss idea. The idea sucks and you're unable to make them better because you don't have the right methodologies. You never were trained on doing that. And then one of my pet peeves is the role of legal. So let me see, I'm not here on a fight against legal. Legal is very important to make sure, but legal for innovators can be very problematic, especially when they're coming in too early. Yeah, to protect creativity and innovation, legal restrictions apply. Yeah, so in some industries, of course, I'm aware there may be more stringent rules, like if you're in the banking sector, if you're in the food sector, if etc., there may be really strong legal regulations that you have to follow. Yeah, and in an enterprise, legal's role is a service to minimize risk, but I also have a role. I offer a so-called innovation service to my company. So, and this is a service as well. Legal is a service, innovation is a service. And we need to look at the legal risk versus the business opportunities that we have here. Think of this example of YouTube. YouTube was a huge legal risk, but the business opportunity was way higher. That's why they took it. And that's why they were able in the end to get through that. Yeah. So in the end, an executive has to decide on whether to take the risk or not. If the legal group is running the show, then your enterprise is doomed. It's doomed because it's always a balancing act between business opportunity and legal thing that we have here. Yeah, I mentioned this example for you of YouTube. Um, there were of course IP infringements, yeah, copyright infringements, people uploading stuff that they didn't own, and and the YouTubers were very aware of that. But they also knew if they are starting right from the beginning of killing that, first they would not get up to that market share that they wanted, and today it's the dominant video platform. But also, it allowed them, by postponing that, to develop tools that later on help to make those legal requirements correct, like automatically image recognition and music recognition to shut it down, or to give copyright owners an opportunity to benefit from them or take them off that thing. So this is an example of where when legal comes in too early, you run into troubles. So there may be things like that I encountered and I didn't know about that. For example, if you're an innovator and you're looking at new products and new areas and new topics that are coming up, that, for example, showing screenshots from third-party websites and applications may violate IP, copyrights and trademarks. So because it's not anymore fair use, it's a business environment. So if you show that to colleagues in a presentation, you are maybe liable. You're infringing on that. So an Amazon screenshot from the Amazon website may in your company already be a legal problem. Or showing YouTube videos from third parties violate terms of use because of the commercial nature of your business. So the dilemma is, inherent in innovation, most IP is not owned by your organization. Thus, sharing screenshots and video in your internal communications, community slideshows, workshops, etc., may violate the IP of third parties. This way, you start becoming unable to learn about newest trends and unable to innovate if you follow that. So you may want to look into that and make sure that you shield innovators for a certain time in their nation phase from the legal department. So when is the legal involvement necessary? Sooner or later, you of course need to identify IP violations and protections, and also identify and file patents. That's where it becomes protect your own IP. And then of course compliance related issues that you have to make sure that you're not violating or following rules that are out there. The corporate legal culture may be also that you may look at, are there enough legal staffers on board to be proactive instead of reactive? Typically, you have not enough. Yeah, and because also for you it's often an expense. Yeah, is also legal, your legal team giving you different risk options? Are they saying no, it's not possible, it's too risky, or are they saying if you do this, we may have a higher risk than when we're doing that? Yeah, are they giving you options? Sometimes it may actually be more effective to work not with the in-house legal department, but work with an external provider, law company. And is legal actively working on finding solutions to make business opportunities happen, or are they the equivalent of Soviet-style obstructionism? I've encountered both. And some of them really I encountered by their CEOs, and the CEOs are surprised about the way this Soviet-style obstructionism works. So you may also want to train your staff, your legal staff, or hire your legal staff appropriately to what kind of culture you want to create in your company. Also, we've talked quickly about co-innovation and legal. That often may be really right from the beginning killing that. So you will be starting quickly discussing who owns the IP and who can participate where and who not. Yeah, it's like sometimes the emperor's new clothes. Yeah, you're looking at stuff, you're pretending to have more, everyone claps around that, but actually often it's not the truth. I heard a case from a medical device maker. They also wanted to attack through an innovation event medical technical problems that they had. For example, they had one machine that had a failure rate of 1 in a million. So the failure rate was really, could be life-threatening. So they wanted to improve that, and legal pulled the plug of that event because they didn't want people to address this, because in case of a problem, of a failure, and they get sued, they may be subpoenaed to release emails where the company basically states, we know that there's a 1 in a million risk and we want to improve that to 1 in 4 million. Yeah, so legal actually prevented to make that thing safer because they were afraid in a future potential case that there could be a problem and that could be damaging to the company. And that is, of course, bullshit. We know that. Legal is not the only obstacle. Actually, one of the biggest innovation stoppers could be the sales team, because if you're changing your business model, that also means you're changing the commission scheme. Yeah, are you disrupting the salespeople's revenue and commission model? If you're not providing enough training for this new product and services, they're just not making enough revenue for their own pockets. Yeah, and does this new product or service need more explanation or new thinking than the old one? So if your sales team is not on board, you are fighting an uphill battle here. Yeah. If you're in Germany or in a country where you have a lot of influential works councils, then this may be a big problem too. Yeah. For example, you cannot do a 24-hour hackathon because this is work time, right? And labor laws do not allow 24-hour hackathons. Are these innovation labs following all the safety and economic standards? I mean, I had a person from management from a German large company, and they opened an innovation lab and gave an interview in this innovation lab, sitting at his desk. And the first response that he got was from the safety and economic expert from their company, congratulating them of opening that, but then pointing out that these tables are not economically compliant because they are too low and this could lead to later problems. Yeah, as important as it is, if you are introducing again all these rules in there, you may have troubles.